Hi, Minister. First of all, you'd like to introduce yourself briefly to our audience.
Sure. Well, Nimen Hauma Panyo. My name is Victor Dominello. I'm the Minister for Citizenship and Communities here in New South Wales. I'm also the Minister for Veterans Affairs, for Aboriginal Affairs, for Volunteering and for Youth. I'm also the Assistant Minister for Education, so I cover a lot of portfolios and a lot of which intersect with the Australian Chinese community here in New South Wales.
Maybe let's beginning by talking about what does multicultural really means to New South Wales, and what's the current status, especially to Chinese community. What do you think are the biggest contribution that Chinese community has made for New South Wales?
Well, I think there are two key ingredients to successful multicultural practice in any place around the world. The first ingredient is to celebrate the diversity that multiculturalism brings to the state. The other thing is to also focus on the things that unite the society together. So in New South Wales, for example, we do have extraordinary diversity, including diversity from the Chinese people, and we're very lucky and blessed to have that. But we also need to focus on the things that unite us, such as our volunteering, such as our national days, such as our Anzac history, such as our Indigenous history. We've changed the Act in New South Wales now, so it used to be called the Community Relations Commission for Multicultural New South Wales, and now it's simply called Multicultural New South Wales. So what we're trying to do is make it a far more professional body. It's a body that's definitely going to have a stronger focus on community engagement. It's going to have a stronger focus on bringing communities together. It's going to have a stronger focus on policy to make sure that we're world leaders when it comes to multicultural practice.
What do you think are the biggest contribution that Chinese community has made for New South Wales?
Oh, well, the Chinese community have made extraordinary contribution, not just in recent times, but since the gold rush days, when they came to settle into our land in bigger numbers. So we've been very lucky, but the Chinese contribution is enormous across every field of endeavour. The Chinese community can be seen. So, but particularly in the professions and medicine in particular, that springs to mind. The engineers, we're seeing more of them coming through. LJ Hooker, it's a famous real estate agency that is actually owned by Chinese. So people don't realise the enormous contribution that Chinese people have made, but it has been so. And that's in addition to the obvious things such as the cuisine and the culture. Chinese New Year, for example, is now a mainstay of our celebrations here in Sydney and in New South Wales. And last year I went on the Chinese New Year parade, which is just extraordinary in Sydney. To see people lined up. It's not just Chinese people lining up, it's people from all around Sydney and all the diversity it brings. So we're lucky to have that. Chinese make an extraordinary contribution in terms of our economy as well. The largest trading partner with New South Wales is Chinese. The largest group of international students are from China. The fastest growing in terms of tourism, again from China. So we're very fortunate to have both the culture, the economic and the professional influence weaving its way through our society to enrich us.
What role do you think that multicultural New South Wales plays in promoting a diverse cultural diversity and harmony here in Sydney and in New South Wales?
What's important that multicultural New South Wales does bring all these great elements that I've just talked about together and make sure that we can share it amongst other cultures that we have here in New South Wales. So, for example, the Chinese are now becoming one of the older cultures to be established here. And they can play a leadership role in relation to some of the newer identities that are coming through. For example, we're having more and more people coming from the Horn of Africa. So the Chinese can show them how to establish community, how to establish culture, and more importantly, how to mix with everybody else in New South Wales. Multicultural New South Wales is aimed to do precisely that, bring all the communities together. The other thing they're supposed to do is be led and guided by an advisory board, and we do have a very important Australian Chinese heritage on that advisory board, Kathy Gao. She's very well known in the community. She brings her accounting expertise to the board. So it is important that we do make sure that we celebrate our diversity, but in the same way bringing people together.
How do you think Chinese community can get really involved into the multicultural New South Wales events and activities? Do you have some special program?
Sure. Well, firstly, to keep doing what they're doing, because they do fantastic work in making sure that the Chinese culture is strong, is vibrant, and is part of our cultural footprint now, and is also part of our economic future. But in addition to get engaged in other activities, so whether it's Multicultural March, where we celebrate everyone's cultures from around the world, because if you come to Sydney, you can visit the world here, or whether it's getting involved in Harmony Day, which again occurs normally around the 25th of March, or whether it's involved in the Premier's Harmony Dinner, again where all the different communities come together and celebrate the fact that we share common values, but we still get on with one another. So they're important ways to get involved. Get involved in community events such as volunteering, or such as Anzac Day. And I know, for example, we've got a number of initiatives around Anzac Day and the centenary of Anzac, and the Chinese Australian Social Services, CAS. They're already doing that. So they get Anzacs or some diggers to come on board and give speeches about Anzac Day and what it means to be, or what it is, how important it is to being part of the Australian identity. Or whether it's Remembrance Day or Poppy Day, we have Chinese restaurants selling legacy badges or poppies on the respective days to again get engaged in our culture.
Now there are more and more international students. I think there are probably about 50,000 international students here. What do you think the New South government has done to help these students to get their best experience here in Australia?
Well, it's critical that students that come to our shores have the best experience, because if they do, then they go back overseas and they become ambassadors for our country, because they say what a great place it is. And I know plenty of international students that have a wonderful time here, and not just have a great experience, but make family and friends here. And they call Australia their second home, which is fantastic. So we want to make sure that experience continues, because I know that their parents, when they send their students overseas, they want to know that they're safe. So we've got a register here to make sure that where they stay, it is registered, it's safe, it's authorised. So that's one way of providing a great experience. Another great way is making sure that they have great transport options. And again, our city is growing, and we're investing more and more in transport, whether it's rail or road, to make sure that they can get around. Another way is to make sure that they're in an environment that is conducive with learning, and our education framework is probably without peer around the world in terms of the reforms that we're introducing. So there's plenty of ways for international students to really become immersed in our culture here.
I think apart from English, now Chinese has already become the most commonly spoken language here in Australia. Maybe tell us a bit about how the community language school is doing, how they're teaching the Chinese language and the culture here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of community language schools right across Sydney and New South Wales. There's one in my own electorate in Ride the Fen Hua School, and it's interesting that when you go there, it's not just Australians of Chinese heritage that are learning Mandarin. It's Australians of Italian heritage, Australians of English heritage. There's a whole group of people there that are learning Mandarin. And I think increasingly, as we realise how close our relationship is to China, it is important that we pick up languages, foreign languages, and Mandarin is obviously of high importance.
Maybe give us some insights about next coming Chinese New Year. Any special programs that Chinese readers could look out for?
Yeah, well, the last year was the year of the horse, and I think this year is the year coming is the year of the ram, which is my year. So okay. It's hopefully going to be a big celebration.
It's mine too.
Yeah, it's a good year.
Yes.
The Chinese New Year seems to be getting bigger and bigger each year. Okay. In fact, last year, or for the last 2 years, we lit up the Opera House in red as a sign of our growing relationship with China, to show our friendship and our respect. So each and every year, Lunar New Year gets bigger and bigger, and it's not just in Sydney. It's in all the areas where there's a high concentration of Australian of Chinese heritage. So there's events right throughout Strathfield and Parramatta and Ryde, in Campbelltown. You can go to most suburbs where you'll see that Asian influence, and you'll see a wonderful New Year celebration.
Great, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, so am I. It's a great time of year.
Okay, I think that's all for today.
Okay, thank you.
for your
Thanks, man.
time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. 谢谢。